Jimmy Lai's mitigation hearing starts and health takes center stage of his foreign collusion conviction. A 33-year-old worker dies after a heavy water tank tilts at a high-tech construction site. And hundreds are reportedly killed in the massive protests in Iran as the U.S. weighs response options. Good evening, you're watching Cable News. I'm Cheryl Yun. The High Court today began hearing the mitigation plea of former media tycoon Jimmy Lai, the final step before sentencing in a landmark national security trial that could see Lai jailed for life. Quinton Yang has more details.
The 78-year-old founder of the now-defunct Apple Daily arrived in the prison van as he remained in custody following last month's conviction. His wife also attended the hearing. The mitigation plea centered on Lai's health. His senior counsel, Robert Penn, cited significant weight loss in less than a year, alongside diabetes, heart problems, and eye disease. However, prosecutors maintained that Lai's condition in custody was stable. Justice Esther To referenced a recent medical report, noting his weight had fallen only 0.8 kilograms since late 2020, leaving his BMI in the obese range for Asian men. Justice Alex Lee added that the core concern was whether Lai remained fit for prison life, not weight alone. Penn argued that prolonged detention and isolation had severely impacted Lai's health. Prosecutors explained Lai had applied for protective custody in late 2020, fearing harassment from other inmates due to his high-profile case, and had confirmed the arrangement monthly. While the hearing also addressed the pleas of 3 co-defendants, with a paralegal and an activist seeking 50% sentence reduction for collusion charges. Prosecutors and justice grappled with how to apply the sentencing tiers under the national security law. The law sets a baseline of 3 to 10 years for conspiring with foreign forces, rising to 10 years to life in prison for grave offenses. Deputy Director of Public Prosecutions Anthony Chow argued for the higher tier, citing precise planning, use of a newspaper as a platform, and foreign involvement. Justice Alex Lee sought to clarify that whether classifying the case as grave would automatically place all defendants in the highest sentencing band. The prosecution replied that individual roles and actions remained considerations. Mitigation for 5 former Apple Daily executives who pleaded guilty will follow, after which the court will set a date for sentencing. Quinton Yang, Cable News.
A 33-year-old South Asian construction worker is suspected to have died after being crushed by a water tank weighing around 13 tons. The incident happened at a construction site on Dakota Drive in Kai-Tak at around 1 p.m. Workers were hoisting a giant water tank when it reportedly tilted while being lowered to the ground. The South Asian worker was unable to escape in time. His upper body was trapped under the tank and he lost consciousness. Co-workers used a crane to lift the tank and managed to pull him free. He was taken to Queen Elizabeth Hospital for emergency treatment but was later pronounced dead. Police and officers from the Labor Department attended the scene to investigate. The Association for the Rights of Industrial Accident Victims said the deceased had been working at the site for about 6 months. He was the breadwinner of a family of 4. The group has urged the contractor to provide assistance to his family. Local and overseas runners will take over Hong Kong streets this Sunday as the city hosts its annual marathon, with major road closures to be rolled out starting the night before. This year's Standard Chartered Hong Kong Marathon will feature the usual mix of events, including the full marathon, half marathon, and the 10-kilometer race. Both the full and half marathon events will start from the familiar location on Nathan Road near the Hong Kong Cultural Centre in Tsim Sha Tsui. Full marathon runners will head west along the West Kowloon Highway, cross the Stonecutters Bridge, continue via the Ting Ma Bridge and Ting Kau Bridge, pass through the Western Harbour Crossing, and finally finish at Victoria Park on Hong Kong Island. The 10K race, meanwhile, will begin on the island eastern corridor and also conclude at Victoria Park. To ensure safety and smooth operations, large-scale road closures will be implemented in phases starting from Saturday night at 11:15 p.m. More than 200 daytime bus and green minibus routes will be diverted, shortened, or have stop changes. Over 50 overnight bus and special minibus services will also adjust their schedules. Organizers expect most roads to reopen gradually by around 2 p.m. on Sunday. Motorists, including drivers of Guangdong registered vehicles entering Hong Kong, are urged to plan ahead and avoid the affected areas as much as possible. Iran has threatened to strike American military bases if the United States intervenes in its internal unrest, as the regime's crackdown on nationwide anti-government protests has reportedly killed over 500 people. Quinton Yang has more.
As the anti-government demonstrations entered their third week, hostilities escalated with protesters directly attacking police stations. Authorities have responded with severe force. The BBC described some protest cities as a war zone, where security forces used live ammunition, leaving streets strewn with blood and bodies. A rights group reported that at least 544 people have been killed, including 8 children, and more than 10,600 have been arrested, many facing terrorism charges and potential death sentences. A forensic center in capital Tehran was seen holding hundreds of body bags, with families gathering to identify loved ones. Iranian security forces also suffered casualties. Authorities declared 3 days of national mourning for fallen security forces, whom they hailed as martyrs combating terrorism. Iranian leaders blamed the US and Israel for the unrest, accusing them of sending terrorists to sow chaos. The country's parliament speaker even warned that American military bases and ships in the region would become legitimate targets if the US attacked. US President Donald Trump responded with fresh threats, stating he was weighing very strong options, including military strikes, and claimed he was in contact with Iranian opposition leaders. Quinton Yang, Cable News.
In the United States, the Trump administration is sending hundreds more federal officers to Minneapolis as immigration raids continue in a city already shaken by the fatal shooting of a woman by a customs agent. Jeremy Zhu reports.
Tensions remain high in Minneapolis, Minnesota. In an operation, immigration and customs enforcement agents carried out an arrest at a residence. Officers forced the door open and pointed guns at people inside. A woman at the door argued with them before closing it. They eventually entered the unit and took a man in gray jacket. The Associated Press reported that the officers had an immigration arrest warrant, but it did not permit forced entry into a private home. During the operation, people protested nearby. Some clashed with officers in vehicles and were dispersed with chemical agents. Other vehicles sounded their horns and tried to block the officers' cars. ICE officers had earlier shot and killed a female driver, Renee Nicole Good, during an operation in the city. Public anger in the U.S. persisted. Protests against immigration enforcement continued in cities such as Oakland, New York, and Chicago. Speaking to Fox News, U.S. Secretary of Homeland Security Kristi Noem said hundreds more federal officers would be deployed to Minneapolis so that immigration agents can carry out enforcement safely. Along with 2,000 officers already deployed, she called it the department's largest operation ever, warning people obstructing law enforcement would face legal consequences. Minneapolis Mayor Jacob Frey said he had extreme distrust for federal investigators, questioning their honesty and bias. He again urged the Trump administration to allow Minnesota Bureau of Criminal Apprehension to investigate the shooting of Good. Jeremy Chu, Cable News.
U.S. Federal Reserve Chair Jerome Powell said he is under federal criminal investigation, calling it a pretext by the Trump administration to exert a greater influence over the independent central bank. Powell revealed that federal prosecutors have opened a criminal case against him.
Friday, the Department of Justice served the Federal Reserve with grand jury subpoenas, threatening a criminal indictment related to my testimony before the Senate Banking Committee last June. That testimony concerned in part a multi-year project to renovate historic Federal Reserve office buildings.
The project, which involves renovating 2 office buildings at an estimated cost of $2.5 billion, has drawn sharp criticism from Trump. Powell said the probe stems from Trump's long-standing frustration that the Fed refused to cut interest rates as quickly and as much as the president demanded.
Those are pretexts. The threat of criminal charges is a consequence of the Federal Reserve setting interest rates based on our best assessment of what will serve the public, rather than following the preferences of the president.
Trump, who has repeatedly threatened to remove Powell as chair, told NBC News in a brief interview that he knew nothing about the investigation. European countries are reportedly discussing plans to calm U.S. threats to take over Greenland, including a NATO mission in the Arctic region. Jamie Liu reports.
This came as U.S. President Donald Trump renewed his push to acquire the self-ruling Danish territory.
Look, if we don't take Greenland, Russia or China will, and I'm not letting that happen.
Bloomberg reported that Britain and Germany were leading European talks for a military presence in Greenland. One proposal by Germany was to establish a joint NATO mission, Arctic Sentry, based on the previous mission in the Baltic Sea. The report said such a mission aimed to show Trump that Europe is serious about Arctic security, undercutting his argument for taking over Greenland. A British secretary confirmed that the UK is discussing Arctic security with NATO allies, but stressed they are business as usual rather than a response to Trump's threat. Jamie Liu, Cable News.
Now let's take a look at the stock market. The Hang Seng Index ended the day up 376 points. Top active stocks of the day, Alibaba was up $7.80, Tencent was up $12. Xiaomi was up 92 cents, Kuaishou was up $5.55. Foreign exchange against the Hong Kong dollar, euro 9.1, Canadian dollar 5.61. Gold prices have hit a record high above $4,600 an ounce, and forecasts say they could top $5,000 this year. Jeremy Zhu reports.
Since early last year, the price of gold has risen by 74%. The gains in silver and platinum have been even sharper, up more than 180% and nearly 160% respectively. In January alone, both silver and platinum have climbed over 10%. Industry analysis suggests gold may see a short-term correction after its record peak, but the upward trend is not over. Fidelity noted it reduced its holdings during last October's price volatility, but has since rebuilt its position, citing falling interest rates and high U.S. fiscal deficits as key supporters for the price. Goldman Sachs expects the mainland central bank gold purchases to accelerate to around 80 tons per month this year, reinforcing gold's appeal. Meanwhile, HSBC said geopolitical risks and rising debt levels will keep prices volatile, forecasting gold to trade between $3,950 and $5,050 an ounce in 2026. Jeremy Zhu, Cable News.
On to the weather now, mainly fine, some haze tomorrow. Cool in the morning and dry during the day. The temperature will range between 15 and 22 degrees. Light to moderate northeasterly winds. That's our news tonight. I'm Cheryl Yun. Thanks for watching and good night.